Hey everybody, how's your day going? I'm Isaac, and today we're taking a look at the device in my hands right here, the iPad mini first generation. The iPad mini launched in November 2012 by Apple, of course, hence the big Apple logo and the iPad name. And yeah, you get the point. And it's kind of an interesting device. I've been using it for a few years now, and we're going to see how it stacks up in 2018, whether it's worth your time, money, or attention. So, let's begin. Alright, so we're gonna go through the ranks and do each thing individually, starting with the cameras. Now, I'm starting with the camera because it's probably the least important thing, arguably, because if you're using an iPad, you're likely not buying it for the camera. However, the camera, well, let's just take a look at some of the videos and photos that I've taken so that we could make a judgment based on that. So video quality, not great at all, and photo quality also not great at all. Let's compare those to my LG G5 and see how that stacks up. So you may not know if the LG G5 is up with modern standards, but it obviously is much better than the iPad. And I decided I'd get the camera out of the way first because it's probably the least important thing and the thing that the least amount of people are going to use on the iPad. So, what's next? What's on from here? Well, let's talk about the design. So the iPad mini design is as follows. It has two volume buttons on the right side if the screen is facing towards you, as well as a mute switch, which isn't something you see very often. It has a power button at the top right, as well as a headphone jack at the top left. There's nothing on the left side of the device, but at the bottom there is a lightning port as well as two bottom firing speakers. The design is all metal wrapped around with a glass front, and it has a shiny Apple logo on the back, which is susceptible to fingerprints. The iPad mini has a gigabyte of RAM, an Apple A5 processor, a 5 megapixel rear camera, and a 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera. So I'm glad I fact-checked everything. I just happened to have this phone with me, and I decided that I'd just take a look at the specs really quickly, make sure I got everything right. And the iPad mini does not have a gigabyte of RAM. It has 512 megabytes of RAM. And it also has, I didn't mention this, but it has a 4,490 milliamp-hour battery. If I am correct, which I'm pretty sure I am. Yep, 4,490 milliamp-hour battery, of course non-removable, but that's the battery. I kind of forgot to say it, and I should probably move my camera back a little bit. But yeah, sorry I forgot to mention that, and sorry I got the facts wrong. Next time I will definitely make sure to write it all down before I present it to you guys and give you guys false information. So if I say it incorrectly again, I will correct it with text. Just keep that in mind. So I think it's a really interesting design. I think it's nice, it feels nice, it's easy to use, and it's familiar. It's not anything radical or different. It's just a regular tablet, and there's nothing wrong with the design. However, with the screen, there's a little bit of a pop-in, I guess. There's like a little black box around it. I'll show you guys what I mean. If I angle it sideways, you can see it. And it's not all that great, and it can be kind of annoying upon using the device, but it's bearable for sure, and a lot of devices at the time had this, so it's not a knock against Apple. At the time this was really good, however nowadays it's not even going to keep up with the phone like the Moto E2. I found the iPad better performance with this phone sometimes over this iPad, so I guess you kind of get what you pay for. And that's something we're going to get into later. However, let's test out the performance of the device. I'm going to split it up into two different sections, which is going to be everyday tasks and playing games. So let's start with that. We're going to try something else, something a little bit different to see how the device can compare doing everyday tasks. So we're going to check our email, and we're going to use some basic apps, and then I'm going to introduce you guys to the killer at the end. So let's start. So here we have a whiteboard app. Let's just write something quick. You may want to, oh boy, maybe you don't want to, okay. You may want to write, you never know. Hello. So we're just writing in here, you know, making ourselves some scribbles, making ourselves a little smiley face man. He's very, very happy that he's on my video. And let's give him some eyes. And now we're going to go out of the app. Let's just flip over to maybe a book. It's a little tilted. There we go. So I can just read through here. Maybe if I missed a page, you go back. I skipped the whole chapter. So yeah, you can do that. And you can also just use your devices like a media center. I thought I had music on here. Apparently I don't have music, but you could play music on here. And maybe you hop to Pandora for a little bit, even though I'm in airplane mode. Let's try doing some multitasking. Oh, well, it's loading, so I'm not going to do that to it. Oh boy. So sometimes there is some stuttering, but it's pretty smooth through here. Let's go back to the book. Flip through a little bit. Oh, I'm bored of reading. I've been reading all day. Flip back to some whiteboard. Let's, oh boy, it erased. It's okay though. Let's make another. So finally, the killer, the app that all iPad mini first generations fear, Google Docs. Now it would seem pretty simple to do some Google Docs for, oh, I forgot to check my email. We'll do that at the end. It may be pretty simple to do some Google Docs work. Let's just open up a document. This is something I was doing in Spanish class a little while ago. We're doing some research on Puerto Rico, and it doesn't seem all that bad now, but let's go into my part of it, or at least my group's part of it. I think I need to. Alright, let's try typing something. Ouch, that hurts me to type. It's sad. It really does hurt me inside to type that. It's just so like laggy and oh, it's so bad. Let's try backspacing a little bit. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh no. How do I undo? There we go, picture's back, yay. Alright, let's get off of this. Let's go back to our whiteboard. And draw one final happy face. So here's just a basic email thing. I can't actually show the email that sent this. This was for school. I think it was a test on kind of showing us what we wanted to do. So favorite sport, pick 2. Okay, well what about soccer and, well, soccer's not my favorite to watch. It's one of my favorites to play though. So I'll just do football and basketball. Favorite colors, pick 2. Maybe I'll do blue and orange. Not my favorite colors. Maybe I like country and hip hop. Oops. Oh, I can only pick one of that. That's too bad. So yeah, doing things like email and whatnot isn't hard at all. So that's just something like that isn't that bad. Sorry I forgot it, but oh well. So here we have the game Hill Climb, and it runs perfectly well on the device. It is only a 2D game after all. You're going to get a nice smooth frame rate. For the most part, you're not going to have many issues with playing games on here, especially games like this. And we'll take a look at some heavier games later, but for something like a basic game like this, it's not going to be a struggle at all. So here we have Geometry Dash. It's a pretty popular game, or it was a couple of years ago, and let's just pick a random level here. So games like Geometry Dash are going to have little to no issues with. They're not resource intensive, just 2D games, kind of like Hill Climb. It's not difficult for the device to run a game or application like this. Okay, let's raise the bar a little bit and play a game called Into the Dead. That was creepy. So a game like Into the Dead is going to be a little bit more resource intensive than like Geometry Dash or something like that. And as you can see, it runs pretty smoothly. It's not the most demanding game in the world either. It's kind of a little bit resource intensive, but it's not too hard on it. It doesn't require a lot of visibility, so not a lot of things have to load at once. And it's kind of a basic mechanics too. Let's get ourselves a gun. So overall, it's pretty smooth for the most part, and you're not going to have any issues here with lag or anything like that. I've had this game for quite some time. I don't think it's ever lagged on me. So this game right here is going to be a little bit on the more resource intensive side, and that is Injustice Gods Among Us. So it's the first game, and it's kind of resource intensive. It's a little bit above middle, probably like a mid-ground, because it is a 2D fighting game. However, it's not like, it has some mechanics that may be harder for older devices to use. So let's select our level here and let's fight. So I realize I'm not a professional game commentator. However, it's not too bad. Like, it runs pretty nicely, although there are going to be some stutters. And the original footage I got for this, which I accidentally deleted, it was a little bit laggier. So I guess sometimes it. Let's see if we can make it lag. So yeah, we've said a lot of negatives about the device, from the speeds to the, well, I guess a little bit of the design, to what it can handle with everyday tasks. Now let's move on to something that may be good or possibly bad. So starting off with the speakers at the bottom. Now we already talked about the design and how they were downward facing speakers in the first place. However, these speakers are not very loud, but they are very crisp. So sound is accurate, it's just not that loud, and there's nothing you can really do about it, to be honest. It's easy to muffle too, but with an iPad it's not usually that much of a problem since you have a lot of real estate to put your hands. And this device is considerably smaller than the iPad Pro or even the 2017 iPad or iPad Airs. This is considerably smaller, so small that it's easy for pretty much anyone to pick up and carry around. You don't have to really lug it around like you would with an iPad Pro and have trouble putting it in a drawstring bag or something like that. Also, a big problem with the device, which I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, is iOS 9. There are tons of unsupported apps on there, and once you're stuck on an older version of iOS, wait, hold on. By unsupported apps, I meant apps that only support iOS like 10 or 11 or something like that. And once you're stuck on an iOS that is older, you lose all the features that you potentially have. With Android, like for example, this phone right here, the Moto E2, is on an older version of Android since it's an older and slower device. However, I can still get most of today's features with launchers or add-ons or things like that to prolong the life of the device, and that is super cool. However, with the iPad, I'm kind of stuck on iOS 9 with all the iOS 9 features. And I mean, it's not a bad OS, it's pretty clean. Like, if you take a look at it, you have some of your basic features like swipe up and swipe down for the search and the swipe down for notifications. And so I guess you can't really complain too much unless you want to download some apps, then you have full rights to complain. So we've listed a ton of good and bad and middle ground things, such as design. I thought that was a pretty good thing. We talked about its minimal specs, its cameras, its OS, its speakers. But here's something that I didn't mention that could potentially change the whole game and how you think of it. Now I've been judging this tablet for like doing today's modern things. However, because it's so inexpensive, you can potentially forgive a lot of its downfalls and issues. You can get this iPad for pretty much brand new or in really great or mint condition off of eBay or say Amazon for $100, give or take. Usually take, but it could cost more if you want to get it like in the box or with the box. Now that changes the game. It puts it on par with some of the some of the new Kindles or even some of the slower older Samsung tablets. So that brings us back to the initial question, is it worth it in 2018? And the simple answer is maybe. I mean, it could be worth it to you, but even if you have $100 to spend on a tablet, I would suggest you go for something other than the iPad mini first generation. I think it's worth keeping if you have one laying around, unless you know someone that would get more use out of it, then you could maybe give it to them. However, if you still use the tablet or still have one laying around, it's perfectly good to do a ton of different things with. It has a lot of potential, this device, and it's something that a lot of people can enjoy and appreciate even with its old 6-year age. So that's going to bring it to the end of the video. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it's worth it? Do you think that you could spend $100 to buy a tablet, or would you rather stick with something else like a Kindle or some Android tablet? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you. Wait, hold on. Kindle tablets technically run Android, but they're heavily skinned. There is a way around it, but yeah, it's not easy. Okay, so that's going to be all, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave what you thought in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.